Hello, my name is Mike Gag, and in this video we will be talking about creating our own class libraries in C Sharp. Now hopefully this is going to be a fairly quick video. There's not a whole lot to this. I'm just going to sort of show you how to do this. We don't really use it all that much in this course. However, it's useful to know, and you might use it, who knows, and so we're going to talk about it. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a new project because I want to create a specific type of project. I can't just create like a console application. So I'm going to do a new project, and I'm going to come here to my Visual C++ or C Sharp, and I'm going to go ahead and find myself my class library. Okay. And I will name this. My class library can have just an assortment of classes inside of it. All right. So like my person class could be in there, an employee class, just a bunch of related classes generally go in there. However, I'm only going to have one class in there at this time, so my class is going to be a person. Uh, or my library is going to be person. So it's going to be class person inside library person. All right. So we'll hit create there. All right. Okay. So you might ask yourself, why would we create a class library? I mean, if you think about it, the way we did it in the previous video worked just fine. And you're right, it is just fine. The reason we create a class library is so that we can make our classes more reusable. All right. So in the last example, right, we wrote class person, and class person was part of a project. It was a file. It was person.cs in this project. Now, if I wanted to create a new project, all right, maybe even at a different company, or wherever, and I wanted to use person again because I wrote it generically, which is a good thing. Um, I would have to find that file, right? That person.cs file, uh, copy and paste it into this new project, physically move it to this new project, and work with it there. Or let's say I had 7 or 8 different projects going at the same time, and I wanted to use person in each of them. I'd have to put person in 7 or 8 different projects, and if I changed person in one, the changes would not be reflected in the other 7, and that might be a bad thing. It's probably a bad thing. I probably changed person for the better, um, and the rest of these programs don't see those changes, and I have different versions of person and all these different projects, and it just becomes a nightmare to figure out, hey, which one was my good version, which one was my bad version, when did I change this, things like that. So what I want to do here is I'm going to create a class library where we can have one copy of person, and everything else can just use it without it being part of their project. All right, I can put it in some neutral location, like out on a network, on the internet, or something, right? And then everyone can just sort of pull that and use it in their projects without necessarily having full access to it. Another great thing is by building a class library, I deny full access of my code to other people. They're just going to get the class library. Um, they're not going to necessarily have such an easy time of seeing and modifying the code that I wrote. All right, and that's good because it protects them from themselves, which is really important because users will find every way possible to screw it up if they can. Um, so you'll notice here I've created my class library. My namespace is person, and my class, it gives me a default class called class 1. All right, and that's kind of boring. I already know what my class is going to be called. My class is going to be called person in the person library. Um, Now you can just do this. Um, I shy away from doing that. In C Sharp, especially in Visual Studio, things are intricately linked together behind the scenes. All right, just changing the name of something um, might cause it to stop working. So there's a safer way. What I generally do is I right click, say on this class name, and I go refactor, rename. Anything that Visual Studio generates for you, your best bet to change its name is to right click, refactor, rename. And I want it to be called person. All right, and I leave all these checked here, hit OK. And now it's going to tell me, hey, if I change class 1 to person, it's going to change some assembly information, and it's also going to change this file where it changes this to person. So those are the places that it will change. So I'm going to say, hey, that sounds great, hit apply. And now it updates this file and to assembly info.css. And so now it's person. The file is still called class though, so why don't I can just change that. I'm just gonna name it person there. And to make sure I didn't break anything, I'm just gonna hit build, and there we go. Everything works fine. It builds great. Okay. Now I'm not saying you can't change it without refactoring. I'm just saying, is it really worth the risk? So now we have that. Fantastic. Now I just had already copied and pasted the code from my person class. There it is. This is exactly copied and pasted from the last video, so you don't really need to study it or anything. There's nothing new here. If you don't know what this stuff does, go back and watch my last video. All right. And again, I'm going to build this. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a way to really run this and test it. All right. You can't run a library. See, I'm going to hit run. It's going to say, hey, can't be started. So the only real way to test this is to have another project import this library and modify it, or not modify it, but work on it. All right. But luckily for us, we know this works. I'm 100% certain this works. It worked in the previous video. So this is all good to go. All right. And so what I want to do is I'm going to save it. We'll do a save all. I'm just going to put it on my desktop. I'm going to call it person library. Just like that. So it'll be saved to my desktop. And now I'm going to build it again just for fun. So it's built. Now you'll see here this debug. I'm building it in debug mode, which means all of the abilities to do traces and stuff like that is built in when I build this, and that gets a bit cumbersome. All right, all this extra space and process and stuff like that we can get rid of once we know our code works. Once my code is 100% good to go, which in this case I'm considering the person class 100% good to go, I'm going to put this into release mode, and I'm going to rebuild it. Now, I have seen through programs that I've written that building in release mode can speed it up to 30% faster. All right, so a program that was built in release mode will run up to 30% faster than one not run in release mode. All right, that's just something that I've noticed. Your mileage might vary, and sometimes it won't be a big difference. Sometimes it'll be a huge difference. All right, so we've built it now in release mode. Awesome. Now I want to show you. I've saved this to my desktop, so I'm going to look at my desktop here, and I have right here person library, and I can open it, and I can open it, and I can come into bin here, and I'm going to see this debug and release folder. I'm going to go into the release folder, and I will see person library.dll. All right, dynamically linked library. I can put that anywhere. I can put that on a network share. I can put it in my System32, though that's generally a really bad idea. I can put it wherever you want, right? This is the meat and potatoes of the program. There's no executable here. It's a DLL, right? I'm going to leave it right here, but you could put it on your desktop or something like that. So I'm leaving it in this folder for now. Okay. So let's come back to Visual Studio here. All right. And so now this is done. I can actually close this project. I'm going to close solution, and we're back here. We're done building our library. Our library is built. So now we're going to learn how to use the library. So I'm going to come up here to File, New Project, Visual C#. I'm going to choose a console application. I'm going to call it Library Test. All right, we're going to test out our library. And we have our static void main here. Great. Now, if I wanted to do just like person, my person equals new person, it's not going to work. It's going to be like, what the heck is person? There's no such thing as person, right? What I have to do is I have to reference my library. So you'll see over here in our Solution Explorer, we have our references. When I click it, you see all the things that are referenced here. Well, I'm going to add a new one. I'm going to go to References. I'm going to right click. I'm going to click Add a Reference. All right, and I'm going to choose Browse. And I'm going to go to my desktop. And I'm going to find person library, bin, release, right there, person library.dll. And I will hit OK. And now we can see person library has now been added. All right. And so now when I start typing person, I see person. All right. Which is namespace person, not class person. See how it says namespace person there? So person dot person See what I did there? All right, how I have to do person dot person, my person equals new person dot person. All right, because we're using the namespace person class person. Okay, now that's a bit more cumbersome than we want, so let's reduce this down here. I'm going to say up here at the top, using person, yeah, just the person library, using namespace person, right? So now I should be able to just say person, my person equals new person. All right, so I've actually kind of done you guys a bit of a disservice here. Something I forgot. Basically, because person is the name of the class and the namespace, it has no idea whether or not I'm using person as the namespace of the class. So we have to do person dot person every time because I did that. If I named the library something else, then it would have worked just fine. So what I want to do here is I'm gonna correct my mistake. So I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm gonna get rid of this, and I'm gonna remove this reference here real quick, and I'm gonna show you the better way. So let me just save this here. Library test, we'll just save that to the desktop as well. Let me close this solution and let me open a new the old solution for library test. We're gonna fix this here. Oh, no, I said library test. I don't want library test. I want person library. There we go. Too many libraries. All right. So let's fix this. Let's rectify this solution. All right. So I'm going to change my namespace. I'm going to right click, refactor, rename. Person namespace is going to become person library namespace. All right. And it's showing me all the places it's going to change. I'm cool with that. It's also changing some other files. So we're great. Okay. And now I just want to build that again. Awesome. So now it's the person library namespace, not the person namespace. I'm going to close this solution. I'm going to come back to my library test here, and I'm going to re-import it. So I'm going to add the reference, and my reference is going to be the desktop person library, bin, release, person library. Awesome. So here we go. Now we've got it back again, and now if I want to do person library dot person equals new person. Oh, I got to give it a name. My person equals new person library dot person. Okay, so that's the long-winded way of saying it. All right. So sorry for that little tangent there, but I wanted to rename this so it worked better. So now what I can do is I can do using person library, which will allow me to get rid of this here because it knows where person is located. There we go, and now we're able to use the shorthand version of it. So now I'm going to do person, my person equals new person, 20 and Mike, just like that. And then I'm going to do, spacing's weird, console.writeLine, and we're going to do my person.toString. And I'll run it. And we see my name is Mike, my age is 20. So nowhere in this project do we have the person class. It's not in here. All right. We'll see. We only have one file, and it's this file right here. All right. We are importing it from the library, and of course, if I moved the library, I'd have to re-import it or re-reference it. When I change the library, I have to re-reference it, just so all my updates are still there. So, but that's it. Now we're using a library. It works out much better because then we can share it to a bunch of different things. It makes our code much more modular, and then we can just store all our DLLs and have access to all of our original classes as opposed to storing the actual files and having to copy and paste and things like that and make sure we keep them updated and stuff. So that's class libraries for you. A very useful feature in C#. And that's going to finish up part 3 on classes for us. So in the next part, we're going to start talking about more advanced class stuff like inheritance, polymorphism, and composition before we start our Windows programming.